put some more time into this thing. If you're thinking that way, probably you won't get through those hard years.
You've got to be looking forward to it.
I'm excited. It's the end of it.
Yeah.
Nearly time for me to go and make some more stuff. It's really exciting.
Right, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for coming to visit us.
That's all right. So, just for the record, you just shown me around everything. I mean, the setup is incredible, and I said to you earlier, I was a bit surprised that it was what it was, but really after following you for a while and seeing your kit, I don't know why I'm surprised that the standard was just exceptional. If anybody's looking at getting kit, gym kit, whatever, I strongly recommend you come and check out this place because you'll just be blown away. It's incredible. So, the whole concept behind the Accidental Businessman is because I don't imagine you woke up one day and went, yeah, I'm going to be a businessman.
No, I didn't.
So for me, this is why I called it like accidental. And I did some research, I did some looking around to see what's out there. And there's a lot of, there are a lot of titles called Accidental Businessman and stuff like that, but not in this kind of format. But I think all of us we start a business, whatever the business is, and then you have to deal with all the other shit. So I'm just in the middle of opening a place, and yesterday I was having to go around and phone electricity suppliers and dealing with invoices and dealing with builders and electricians, and these are little things that when people are starting a business you don't think about.
Yeah, you have to be very very adaptive and good at problem solving.
Because all you want to do is just get on and do what we do. I don't want to deal with like electricity supply. I don't want to be on the phone to some person saying we're taking over the unit and we want to be the new tenants. I don't need that.
Yeah, the stuff you need to, especially early on when you're starting out. I found when I was starting out, there's all the basic stuff you have to do. You can't afford to bring somebody in.
But it's all the non-sexy stuff there, so
yeah,
it's
exactly.
all the stuff that nobody wants to know about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, they just want to get to how do I make money? How do I create a funnel? What should be on my website? Whoa. You haven't even nailed the basics yet. You're already way ahead of yourself. You're already ordering your jet. Exactly. So, all right. So I've got a series of questions. Okay. We'll try and keep the flow.
Okay.
So, what's your background? What was it like for Simon Watson growing up?
I left school at 16, and I lived in Bath, and I moved to Salisbury, which is 40 miles away from Bath, doing an aircraft as a 4-year aircraft apprenticeship with the MOD, and it was a really good engineering grounding. It taught you all the basics of care for tools and what tools to use for what job, and just gives you a really good eye for careful, considerate engineering, which I think is a massive lack of today. So I did a 4-year apprenticeship, stayed on another 4 years to work there, so I was there for 8 years. And it was good. It gave me a really good grounding in engineering, but the actual day-to-day work that we did could be a little bit boring. You had your own plane that was flying. It was Boscombe Downs. It's a testing. It's kind of like Top Gun in the UK. Top Gun not as sexy in the UK. So it's testing any new aeroplanes or any new kit for airplanes is where it gets tested. So you'd have your own plane that you would do before flight and after flight checks with, and if it wasn't flying, you didn't do anything. So I tended to use the gym a lot there. In work time, quite often you go into work, plane's not flying, nothing to do, so you just go to the gym or you play tennis or you just do something to keep yourself amused, which was good because it was good fun, never mind you going to a gym, but it got a little bit boring, and I like to be busy, I like to be doing things. So after the 8 years, I thought a good thing to do would be go travelling. So I took 2 years out, went travelling, did the usual Australia, Thailand, US and everything. Then came back. While I was away, I knew I wanted to do something for myself, but I just didn't know what or how it could work.
So you kind of knew that you wanted to work for yourself, you wanted to be your own boss.
I love the idea of just being my own boss. Not to make loads of money or anything, just to be in control of what I was
time to
doing.
get up when you finish work?
Yeah, exactly. So I really wanted to do something. I love training, so I kind of had the idea in my head, maybe personal training. This is back in like 94, 95, when personal training was nothing like it is now. So I kind of had that idea, didn't really know. Came back and I got a job for a company that reconditioned industrial food equipment. So we're quite a small company, about 12 people. We buy second-hand food equipment, like great big bowl choppers and things. Take them apart, I learned to weld there, re-weld it, make a new frame for it and sell it on. And I love that because I learned to weld and I was making things. I love the idea that you could start making something in the morning and by the time you get home at night, you've got this big structure. So I really enjoyed that. It was a great job, and it was quite a small company, so you got to learn about business as well. The two bosses there got me involved, speaking with customers and things. So I learned to weld, and then that really got me thinking, maybe something, putting the two together, because I love training and I love making things. And I started thinking then, maybe if I can start making some basic gym equipment, even just as a part-time thing, if I can do it in my spare time, that would be a really, really exciting thing for me to do. It would get me up in the morning. It would just really motivate me. Not to start as a business, just as a part-time thing. So quite quickly, within a few weeks of thinking that, started looking around. I managed to find a tiny unit, which is about half the size of this office, that I managed to rent for 6 months for £500. So it's £500 up front for 6 months rent with electric included. So I now suddenly have this tiny little unit, which was great. I bought myself a super basic welding set and a cut-off saw, and then just started making some bits.
Wow!
And it was the most exciting time ever.
So again, it kind of lends itself against that accidental thing, isn't it? Because you've got a series of skill sets. So you've learnt your working on aircraft. That's kind of where you can see that in your kit. Like the precision is just there, isn't it? Because with an aircraft, you've got to be precision, otherwise somebody's dying. So you've kind of already got that ingrained quality inside you, and then you've grown a business really without realising that it was a business. When you took on that unit and you gave the guy these 500 notes, you didn't know whether you just wasted 500 notes and you're going to be left with a shitload of metal at the end of it and nobody would want to buy it.
Well, to me, even if nobody bought anything, I didn't really care. For me, it was my hobby.
How old were you?
So then I was 29, 28, 29.
Okay.
So that was 98, 99. I always thought I started the business in 99, but I recently found some mega old pictures of the first things I made, and it had the date stamp on there. It was late 98, so it was actually late 98 when I started. Because it was no official thing. It wasn't. I don't know the date I started the business.
No,
I didn't. I just.
Like you said earlier, when did you start? Like 2005, I think.
Yeah. It just kind of evolved from a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I didn't sell anything at all, wouldn't have cared. It was money well spent to just have my own little unit making bits.
And no ideas and plans of thinking like when this 6 months is up, what I'm going to do.
No.
You just at that point you were living your ideal dream, weren't you? Doing what you wanted to do, and you're making some stuff out of it.
Exactly. Still working at the food equipment.
So it's extra hours, isn't it? So you're doing a full-time job, and then weekends and evenings.
I was up early in the morning. I was there. As soon as I finished work, I was straight.
There's a I don't know if you follow Gary Vaynerchuk or anything like that, but he talks about when people want to start businesses and they say, yeah, but I've got a full-time job. And he always says there's a lot of hours between 7 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's where you would be working on that. And really, anybody I've ever spoken to that is successful, and I don't just mean financially successful, but I mean just successful people, that was them. You did your job, you paid your bills, and then rather than go off to the pub or go and watch the football or anything at 5 o'clock, you came over to your unit and cut metal.
100%.
And I think that's what separates success, isn't it? Being prepared to do what most won't, have the life that most will never make. And that's literally it in a nutshell.
But I think if you're thinking, as soon as I finish work, I've got to get down and put some more time into this thing. If you're thinking that way, probably you won't get through those hard years.
You've got to be looking
forward to it. I was
so
excited at the end. Nearly time for me to go and make some more stuff. It was really exciting.
So living your passion is key, isn't it? Living your passion is key.
Yeah.
So school, because I wasn't great at school. I did 2 degrees later. I don't know how the hell I did them, but I did 2 degrees later on. But at school, I found it difficult. I
wasn't.
My attention span's like that.
Yeah, I was never great at school. I just kind of blended in, and I think maybe that's part of it. I never stood out. I had some friends that would like
the popular kids,
the ones that all the teachers liked and things. It just felt like I blended in, and I always wanted to be kind of noticed. Maybe some of that has come through later, where I want to achieve something, not necessarily financial, but just to leave my mark. So I often think about when I die, I'd like to, loads of people in the fitness industry saying, "Oh, terrible day, Simon's died, but this is what he achieved. These are the things he innovated and brought to the industry." Sounds a bit morbid, but it's really funny. I think again that's people I've spoken to. It's really, and what lends itself is that legacy. Mm-hmm.
You want to leave a legacy. You don't, you don't just be like Simon Watson. Make some gym kit. You can't. You know what I mean? Without thinking about it, you are already creating legacy. You know it's going to get carried on through your family and your kids. That's kind of a given. But I think for a true entrepreneur, just because your kids know about it isn't enough. So like when my dad passed away in 2010, I had no idea of who was going to turn up to the funeral or anything. I'll never forget coming out of the creme and the amount of people outside. There was more people outside than there was inside. And I was just absolutely blown away. I didn't realise he was that popular, but it was just who he was. Without me realising it, he created a legacy. You know what I mean? He created this. I don't know. And he wasn't, he wasn't a wealthy man. He wasn't like, he was just in. And I think that's where true business, true entrepreneurship is something that you live. It's who you are. And that's you right now. So I think we spoke briefly before, mate. You said you even borrowed the money, didn't you? So it wasn't like you paid it; you borrowed it from your parents.
Borrowed the money from my mum. Yeah, my dad died as well. I was 13 when my dad died, so that was a tough time because we're a real close family. And I feel boy around that age when your dad's your hero. So that was tough, and maybe some of that had an effect later as well. Wanting to prove myself.
I think that's in their boys, isn't it? I often think myself, I would love to show my dad what I've done, but I know exactly how to respond. So quite a while ago, we went to a place in Barnstable, and it's not a particularly posh place, it's just a nice place. And my dad's going through the menu, and he's like, £4.50 for a cup of tea. So it's a tea bag, son. And I remember him just going, and my wife just literally playing along going, he's just turned into a right snob. And he's going, it's £4.50 for a cup of tea, it's ridiculous. And I know now my dad would still think it's ridiculous the amount of money that people spend. But it still doesn't mean that I wouldn't love to show him what he did for us.
I know exactly what you mean.
So probably like yourself, I wasn't given loads of money and go, there you go son, here's a pocket of money and go do what you want to do. My dad just always said to me, things only happen if you do the work. You just got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. No, my dad was a real worker. He kind of taught me that, getting up early, working. But when I said lent the money was, I can't remember exactly, but it was around about £800. That's what I started the business on.
Have you paid it back since?
I do pay my mum back ongoing. That got me the unit, the basic kit, the welding machine, the cut-off saw, and a grinder, everything I needed then to get started.
So there's no official start date to Watson at all. It's just like...
We were sole trader for a long time, so you could say officially when we went limited, which didn't even know when that was, but I could look that up. That was around 2005.
It's a big thing when you go limited, isn't it? You almost feel like you've grown up.
Yeah, it's like a
No,
proper
it's a grown-up business now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm accountable. But again, it's something that young business people don't think about. And I think it's good. I think there's a side of you that needs to have basic business. You need to have basic business skills or learn the basic business skills. But I love the fact when I speak to people and they go, yeah, I haven't thought about being limited. I haven't thought about tax, and I haven't thought. They're just so ingrained in what they do, which is awesome. But you know that stuff.
You need the passion to get started, but I think if you want to survive, you do fairly quickly need to learn just the basics of business, which is getting more money in than is going out. You know, and just keeping an eye on your costs and just constantly being aware of what's happening. I think you need to learn that fairly quickly, along with the passion.
So the passion's there, and you know you looked around and you thought, actually, you know, I quite like the gym. You combine the two, like your engineering background and gym, but why even bother? Do you know what I mean? I know you enjoyed it. I know you ran over from work and you would just be cutting metal and and stuff like that. But do you know, like in yourself, why you did that? You know, I know it was fun, but what I'm trying to get at is like people always have they think this is the reason they do something when really it was kind of there was something else. So you know, why do it? Why even bother?
Well, probably like I said, there was maybe when I was younger things that set in my head that wanted to achieve something.
No idea what that was.
No idea what it was, what it was going to be, but I just remember the thought of making something for myself. It was so exciting, and gym equipment fitted because I understood training. So I thought from that I could learn what was needed in terms of gym equipment. But I remember the first few things I sold. I remember the first leg press I sold to a guy in the New Forest. He placed an order, gave me a deposit. I'd never made one before, so quickly I'm running around and taking on making a leg press and just coming up with all these ideas of how I could make it, and sneakily going into gyms and kind of measuring things.
The dimensions and stuff.
So it was just fun. It was exciting.
And then later on, you decided you just make leg press bigger.
Yeah, start scaling it up.
Huge. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so when was the point in time when you actually realised that you're not Watson gym manufacturer, you're a businessman?
I remember points early on when, because we've generally always worked in a way where somebody pays a deposit for the order, and then when it's made, they pay the balance. I remember a point, it must have been maybe 3-4 years in, where I looked at the deposits I had in, and I thought it's it's not a lot now, but at the time I thought all these people are giving me money and they're relying on me.
I'll give you money and I ain't getting anything.
To make all this stuff, and suddenly I started feeling this weight of, I've got to crack on and get this done.
Pressure.
Yeah, and machines I hadn't properly made or tested, so there's all this work I had to do. And started feeling a bit of pressure there, and then that kind of made me think, right, it's becoming a business, so I need to get serious about everything and start analysing things a bit better and maybe look at bringing other people in to help.
So it was almost the monster you created that actually made you realise that you're not the guy now cutting metal and welding it. You now need to take business.
Well, it still was up until 12 years in. I was still welding myself, still doing. I probably left that way too late. I struggled to come away from that. But yeah, certainly a few years in, I was still making everything, but I needed somebody who could help with the making. So I could spend a bit more time on the designing, because it was very up and down. I'd have no orders at all, and then so I'd concentrate on selling, make loads of phone calls, follow up on everything. Then I'd get a few orders in, and then suddenly leave all the marketing, leave that, and concentrate on making. So it's constantly up and down.
Because your stuff's not cheap, is it? Let's face it. It's
Back then it was. Back then, it was too cheap for what it was.
So
still from the start, it was
well
it was always well engineered. Totally different to now, but it started off too cheap. I made the classic mistake of thinking everyone's price sensitive, so you've got to undercut everyone to get the sales.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that, because that's what we were talking about before we started filming this. You know, that mentality of people that when they start a business, and I'd read something I thought was amazing, that most people price their products based on what they think they would buy, what they could. So what your situation at that time is what you could afford. So you price your stuff within your immediate circle. So you look at your immediate circle and think, well, the people I surround myself with couldn't spend that, so I need to bring my prices back to what they would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And later on, you realise that they're not the people you're serving.
Exactly, and you think, because something to you, if you've got a certain skill in something, to you, whatever it is you're selling is straightforward. It's dead easy. If you're selling a service or something, to you it's easy. So you don't really see the value, but you have to realise, to everyone else, it's not a simple thing. There's a big value to that. So if I had a skill of making stuff myself, and you kind of think, well, that was simple to make. It didn't take me too long. It was simple to make. So you charge like a percentage of your time, and then you need to realise that that's not sustainable really if you want to grow the business, and if you want to long term look after everyone and all your customers. It's all very well selling things cheap and somebody gets an amazing deal, but then if you're not around next year to service it and to cover anything that might happen, then it's not good on the customer long term.
No, absolutely. So if we'd never met and we were, I don't know, in a bar having a drink night, and I said to you, we just standard question, so what do you do? How do you answer that question?
I always say I've got a company that manufactures specialist gym equipment. That's what I.
Is that literally how you phrase it?
Yeah. I'm always a bit.
This is what I'm trying to get.
I don't like to say.
I don't like saying gym owner, because they immediately think sweaty, dirty gym. Loads of people. You know, I mean, they don't. So but then if I say business owner, you know, what business?
Exactly.
And then you go, I own gyms. And then it's almost like you've almost degraded yourself.
Exactly.
You said businessman, but it turns out you actually own a gym. So you're not a businessman, are you? You know, so you always feel, I hate that question. I hate when people ask me what I do.
Yeah. I'd rather if I'm with someone I know and they tell
me for it. Yeah, absolutely. Rather than you. Over to you.
Exactly.
You should just take a person around you all the time and get them to answer that question for you.
Yeah, it might be.
But it is one of them. I think loads of business people would actually find it difficult to say the words, well, I'm a business person, or worse, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, because everyone's an entrepreneur.
Oh my God, there was a time where you just wouldn't even use the word, but now it's like literally everybody on Facebook has got the word entrepreneur on what they do, which I find interesting. That
no, I don't feel I'm that level really. When you see so many people giving seminars and things, and you think, oh God, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that, and I'm 21 years in.
You don't know what's going to happen with this yet, you might get, but it's just an interesting story, and it's what I want to get to. I want to reach out to people that haven't spoke at TEDx, and people that aren't already. It's so easy to approach these guys and get 5 minutes with them. I want to get to people like yourself who started something out of pure passion and have been super successful. And you celebrate your success, which we've talked about before, and I love the fact that you celebrate success. I think that was the biggest thing that got me wanting to speak to yourself more than anything else, is that you're happy to go, yeah, you know what, I'll celebrate.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the motivator early on, but now I like nice holidays and things. I like to have something planned, so every month there's something planned, so I can work really intensely, but it's just, you're kind of working towards something.
No, I totally get it.
So I've got 2 really flat out weeks, everything's going on, but then once that's done, we're off somewhere nice. And I'm still thinking about work when I go away. I love thinking about work and planning. But
same. I'm away. Literally, we move all our kit from one facility to the next facility on the 26th of September. On the 25th of September, I fly out to a villa in Cyprus with my wife, and everybody's like, "Oh, you timed that wrong, haven't you?" I'm like, "No, I timed that perfectly." I've got a team that's going to do that. I'll be in Cyprus, but part of me would be thinking, "Oh, you should probably be there." But I found when I got married, I would never spend my anniversary in the UK. I'd be somewhere just me and my wife. But no, I love it.
So I like to have little goals and little luxuries and things.
You do like your luxury, your food. You're definitely a foodie person, aren't you?
I like my food. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Different restaurants. We've actually just booked the Fat Duck. Do you know the Fat Duck, which is Heston Blumenthal's place?
Yeah.
He's doing this special Christmas menu, so I'm looking forward to that.
I think it'll be like steam and stuff, smoking out your food.
Fireworks,
Yeah. So, what lessons have you learned over the 20 years?
Loads. Because for probably 10 years, the business was slowly growing but quite flat.
Yeah.
And then it
was
within
a period
10 years it
recognised.
started ramping up, and 100% it started ramping up when I started learning about business through books, seminars. So there's one seminar I did that kicked it all off, which was called the Renegade Millionaire, which is a guy from the US, Dan Kennedy, and a guy from the UK, Chris Cardell, who I'm not sure about now, but he did some really good stuff back then. So the two of them did this 3-day seminar in London. I think it cost about $2,500, which back then I thought it was a big investment for 3 days.
Nobody would get it, would they? Nobody would get.
No.
Spending $2,500 to listen to somebody talk about business.
But literally, whether it was chance or what, but from then, and I started reading more books and things from then, business just really ramped up. Learning about marketing, learning about price elasticity, about just all these things, how to grow your business, 80-20, all these things. When you put it all together, just had a massive result. And I think a lot of it I've been, over the 10 years, getting everything in place, so I was kind of ready. If I learned all that right at the start and implemented it right at the start, it might not have worked the same. But having that grounding for 10 years and then applying all this knowledge really made it.
It's when you've created something and you know there needs to be more than just turn up well. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you kind of, and I think that's at that turning point when I think most people become business people, because they start thinking, well, if I don't make changes now, this business is staying flat. This is pretty much all I'm going to do, and I'm going to constantly spend my time knocking on doors saying, "Do you want to buy from me? Do you want to buy from me?" I find it interesting that you said it was a particular seminar that kind of woke you up and went, "Okay, you really need to start taking this shit seriously." I was the same. I'll never forget 2009, Los Angeles. Couldn't really afford to get out there, to be honest, but I did it, and everybody's like, "Why are you going to Los Angeles to learn from some guy out there?" And it was just, it completely changed. So I went out there with this like mindset that I've got a facility, I've achieved the holy grail of actually opening a gym, even though it wasn't really a gym. So when I was out there, I was absolutely blown. The guys asking who's got a gym, and my hand would go up because I'm looking around this room and I'm like 20% of the room is putting a hand in the air. I said, how many of you closed your facility to be here? And I put my hand up, and it was literally in that instant realisation, you've literally closed, so you're not making any money, no one's being serviced, you've got customers waiting, you closed to be in LA for 5 days. And now, that was the minute I came back, I employed somebody. Back in the day, you would sell blocks of sessions to people because you were sold that sell bigger blocks because you want more people on longer term programs. And again, this guy's who sells blocks. I'm thinking, oh my god, I'm selling blocks. I'll sell like literally 6 months worth of blocks. And he went, how do you deal with cash flow? And I thought, that's absolutely right, because every December, all that money you were expecting in wouldn't show up because people are like thinking, I'm not spending it with him. I need to buy a little bit of his iPad. So it was just them two things: systemizing my business, automating the payments, and employing my first member of staff was literally the turning point. And it was going to a conference that made me go, okay.
Yeah, I remember the main things I learned there was, one of them was, everyone's got this idea of like there's a ladder of where you want to be, so you work up a ladder, and it's rubbish. You don't need to go step by step. You can be on the bottom rung and you can jump straight to the top. You don't need to work your way up. If you do things right, you can take huge leaps forward. And the fact that you never build a business or make money because of what you do. It's you make it because of who you are. So whatever you're doing, you need to be the person for that thing.
Yes.
Which is, especially like with the dumbbells, I always want, as soon as we started doing dumbbells, I wanted us to be the person. So when people think top end dumbbells, we're the people. So we're known for certain things, and having that always at the back of your head, I think helps.
And that's okay. That's okay to be known for a particular, even though you've got multi concepts. It's okay to be known for one thing. I think that's the struggle with like business entrepreneurs. They want to be known for everything. You know what I mean? You should know everything about me, everything that I do. Like, it's actually okay to be known for one thing.
Yeah, well, that's one of the other massive changes was actually a book Charles Poliquin recommended to me called Pumpkin Plan. Pumpkin Plan, all about the American pumpkin growers who grow these huge giant pumpkins. So early on in the season, there's generally one pumpkin that's growing more than the others. So they get rid of all the rest, and they put all their love and focus into this one. Instead of having loads of average sized pumpkins, they just have one huge giant one. And that I understood it was a hard move, because back early on I was selling other people's cardio kit and other people's dumbbells and things that we would sell and we'd make some money on, but it was taking the focus away from us, it was diluting things. So overnight got rid of everything else, totally stripped down.
That's a risk, isn't it?
And I was
because you're making money, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. So to think suddenly not sell this and only sell what we're making, but then suddenly you focus much more on what you are doing, and you become the experts in that field.
Yeah, and again, there's that fear thing that I think a lot of people are scared to do is, why would I cut off my income?
Exactly.
I remember I told you earlier, I was driving to Taunton, I qualified as a personal trainer, I'd left the career as a nurse, went to Taunton, and built up a solid base of like 72 clients. So they were quite long days. And I get a phone call from Marcus, who was like the area manager, that just told me that they were closing Fitness First in Taunton. And I thought, shit. And I remember phoning my wife and saying, I've just had some bad news. I thought when he first phoned me I thought he was going to phone and say something, complain about me, because the big man's phoning you at home. And I phoned my wife and I just said, closing Fitness First. She went, you have to start building it up locally then, won't you? Oh yeah, mate, you don't understand. We're about to lose a lot of money, our life is about to change. We've got just your wage right now, I've got nothing, I've got no backup plan. In 6 weeks' time, that money we're making is gone. And she just calmly just went, well, you can build it back up here or go back to being a nurse. I was like, okay, I'm not going back to being a nurse. But that having that support and that belief in me that she's, was like, I don't see what the big deal is.
And when you're kind of pushed in the corner, that I find I work best when
always
I'm really up against it.
Yeah, I love that.
You've got no choice.
And I constantly put myself. I deliberately put myself in a pressure point.
I do. Yeah.
Always. Because when it's easy, I'm bored. And when I'm bored, I spend money that I shouldn't spend. You should be going to.
Yeah, you definitely need that drive to. You've got no choice. You've got to make something work.
So, would you say out of the lessons? Would you say there's any one that was a massive lesson, so a big mistake that you possibly made that taught you even more?
Well, I've made so many mistakes, as I think everyone does along the way. But 80-20 has been amazing. Since I learned about that and started applying that in everything I do, that's a really big turning point. That's massively helped.
Mine was spend money to make money. I was always in. I don't need to spend money on advertising. We get referrals. We've got clients coming in all the time. We're the only ones in the town that do what we do. Sitting in that comfort zone. And I wished I'd have spent money back then, but I didn't think I needed it. And that was a massive lesson for me. I think if I'd spent money back in 2007, 2008, when Facebook was so easy to advertise on, so cheap, and you could put it before and after up. I had a friend who used to say to me, right, if you put that on an ad, you spend that money on an ad, you'll get more. I said, yeah, but we sell out a program just by putting it before and after up. I don't need to spend money. It'd be like, instead of 30 people, you could have 60 people.
I see a lot of businesses constantly looking for lead, constantly spending money to get leads in, which is good, but they're not necessarily picking the lowest hanging fruit, which can be your database of. Any good business should always have an amazing database of existing customers. They're always the easiest, cheapest, best people to go to first and try and get work, and then if you can't from there, you start spreading out into remarketing and
it literally is
like that.
It literally is know me, like me, trust me, isn't it? So
Mm.
people get to know you, you deliver the good quality, they like what you do, then they trust you, so if they're going to order anything again, you're going to be the first person
Exactly.
to go to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our order book, at any time, 50% at least of our order book is return customers. Always. I'm always amazed. Bath's a nice, busy town, city. Nearly any restaurant you go in, you'll go in, have a nice meal, walk out, nobody will try and get your details, nobody will try and get your email or anything so they can market to you. And then they wonder why they're closing down in 6 months.
I've always been baffled by things like, hairdressers. Women go in and get their hair, and they're in there for 2 hours, and what they do is they just stick them under a dryer and give them a coffee and a magazine. And I'm thinking, why aren't you selling nails to people? Why are you not doing a pedicure? Why are you not doing something else?
But that's just not thinking in a business way. So then these restaurants on a Monday night are totally empty, waiting for people to walk in. Whereas if they had a huge database of people, they could send something out, something offer, and they could predict how busy they're going to be every night.
But it's quite frustrating, isn't it? You find yourself thinking, I want to just walk up to these, my wife being hairdresser for 3 hours, and then she'll go somewhere and get her nails done. I'm like, well, while you're sitting there, can't you get your nails done?
It would make sense, wouldn't it?
Because then you're not spending 3 hours there and 2 hours there, and that's 5 hours of your life, and then you're going to get your eyelashes done. Can't this all be done in one place? While you're in the chair.
Would come up with,
Maybe I should open an hairdresser's. So, what would you do differently if you knew then what you know now?
That, but because so certainly in the last few years, I've invested massively in equipment, and that's had just such a huge.
It's transformed everything.
Transformed everything. So, but if I did that much earlier on, I'm not sure that we'd have the same result. It would have worked as well, because I think you need to go through the process of learning things, making all the mistakes, and just biding that time and just learning before you jump in too much. I see loads of, certainly in manufacturing, a lot of companies businesses will start with a huge investment, so they're borrowing a few million to set up, and from day one they've got this huge burden on their head. Got to be paying back all these finance deals, and I don't think it puts you in the right place. You need to. I quite like the fact to start to really small.
You've learned
You've learned everything, and now the time's right. So, I sometimes think loads of things I've done, if I'd only done that years ago, I'd be that much further along now. One thing I should have done earlier that I really struggled with was getting away from the actual work myself, welding and things myself. I did struggle with that for a long time.
You think that's a little bit of ego as well, or something? Because you created it, you're the man.
A lot of it was when I didn't. If I didn't leave work feeling physically exhausted, because building kit all day is tiring. You lump around it's hard work and tiring. If I didn't feel exhausted when I left work, or I was covered in dirt, I feel like I hadn't done a proper day's work. So getting your head around that you have done a good day's work, even if you're clean and you're not tired, that was quite tough for me.
So really, you wouldn't do anything differently, would you?
No, I'd have just come away from work a little bit earlier, I think is the one thing.
We were talking about that, we were saying about how you come into the office sometimes just because you feel you should. You don't necessarily have to. I mean, you could do your stuff from home, couldn't you? Like the same. So, and you end up staying that little bit longer back in the earlier days than you probably should, because you kind of, it's almost like that. When you used to go in the gym and you see the guy in the gym, you think, well, I can't leave before him. Because I leave before him, looks like how I'm going to put the effort in. And it's kind of like that, isn't it? You kind of come into work and you think, well, I can't leave before my employees do, because I came in late and then now I look like a lazy bastard. And it's all this weird stuff that goes on inside a business person's head that people don't talk about. They're all talking about the cars, the watches, the success, the funnels, the lead generations. They don't. And what I want to kind of get across is, just the nuts and bolts, and teach something. So the next generation of entrepreneurs, or whatever the name is for them, then don't come in blinded by the Instagram and the private planes, and they actually learn something from people who've actually done nuts and bolts, built it, systems, organisation, delivery, execution,
exactly.
And that's how you got there. Nobody gave you it.
No. I find that part exciting, how put the systems in place, because every year we're in new territory. As we grow, we grow about 40% each year. So every year we're a totally different company to what we were the year before. So you always have to learn new techniques and new processes, and how HR and constantly having to evolve all that. And a lot of that is exciting. I find it quite enjoyable. Not HR, but
So do you have HR and stuff like that? Are you at that point where
we're getting there now? Getting to a point we've got 45-ish employees, so we're starting to bring that in-house now. There's things as you grow that you need to start doing.
Is there any times when you think, what have I done?
No, I love it. I love where we are now. I love where we're going. I've got our vision clearly laid out of where we're going. So I do enjoy it. Sometimes when I come in, I haven't got much to do. I enjoy just walking around and seeing what's happening.
You didn't like that kind of that scary part where you now have people that rely on you. And I'm not just talking about your family. You've got customers who rely on you. You've got employees that rely on you. Your name's on the brand.
Yeah, exactly.
It literally lands with you.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's a good thing. I was speaking to Tony Doherty. Doherty's in Australia. He was saying how good it is having your name, because it just makes you that much more determined to make everything work. You take personal pride in everything, and if there's ever an issue, you just can't sleep until it's sorted. You want everything right. So I think having your name's a good thing.
There was a push a little while ago, where you didn't really want to put your name to anything, because if you put your name on it, then you can't sell it, and you can't create brand behind your name. And that's how people come up with names for rather than putting their name on. And whereas now, I think with people are realising that you can create a personal brand.
Parsons done it very well.
Your personification again as well, something's actually taken a personal brand. But again, I think what's getting lost is in translation somewhere is that personal brand being the Instagram person who shows her ass off, or you know what I mean, or the personal brand of the guy who's got an agency. You just think you've got the lost. Your roots personal brand.
I think so many companies they're faceless, so you don't really know who's behind it. And the issue there is there's no real trust with the customer. Customers like to know who is behind this company. So if everything goes wrong, is there actually somebody they can speak to who's got a say in everything?
So even if you moved away from this completely and went, you know what, I'm done, sold up tomorrow, that name really still has to stay with. Nobody could come in and call it some weird, strange name, because it would literally immediately lose that trust and that what it's known for, like tomorrow. So I sometimes wish I'd used my name some way within my companies, but
because Watson Gym Equipment came, it's all I can think of at the time, and the plan always was from early on. The plan was to come up with some cool name. So I was always thinking, what should we call it? And just never got around to it. And so glad now I didn't. So glad we kept it as it was. So I have people say to me, you need a name to build a brand. You need a name.
And that's it. And nobody knows you, so you can't be you because whereas like now it's almost like it's cool again to put your name on a product. Because it was back then like but you can't sell it because nobody's going to buy it because who's Watson. You're like but now it's like people couldn't change the name. They just couldn't. It just wouldn't work. You've built such a strong identity within your industry that it would just be almost impossible for somebody to come in and go, I'm going to call it after my name. You would just literally lose all that authenticity when you meet it tomorrow.
that's one thing that does, it makes you proud as well when you going around with your kids and you see a gym and then they're like, oh, there's our logo, and it makes you feel good.
That's what, yeah, I think it's awesome. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you. So, business owner, entrepreneur, pressure, customers, employees, all that. So anything keeps you awake at night.
Pressure, like stress, I find as long as I can cope with anything, as long as I can see myself moving closer to my goals, then I can cope with anything. I've never had an issue with that. I've always been able to get home, always thinking about work, but I've never had really sleepless nights. I can always...
Do you find it difficult to shut down?
No, I've always been able to get home, switch off, go to sleep. I need a good 8 hours sleep. I always go to bed fairly early. I'm up early in the morning, I'm up at 5 in the morning, so generally by 9 o'clock I'm in bed asleep. I've always been good with sleep, always been able to switch off, unless things are getting out of control. That's the only time, or financial money. When we built this, part of the plan, I knew the money I built up was going into the build here.
And so you self-funded a lot.
Yeah, and I knew the nice pot of money that I like to have, I knew that was going to dip right down. It was part of the plan, but when it did dip right down, that was a scary time because we had still like £1 million of orders we were processing, and knowing we didn't have much fallback on, we needed money constantly coming in to feed the cash flow.
Because that is pressure, isn't it? Especially when you've got people who rely on a wage at the end of the week.
That's the only time I can really think over the last 10 years I've been a bit stressed.
Yeah.
But it was all part of the plan and it worked, and then we built this and money started flowing in better. So it's fine, but generally I can switch off. I don't get to...
It's been prepared to set a risk though, wasn't it? Because it could have all just gone.
Could have gone very wrong. It could.
You know, and this is the thing that people don't realise, that you do play that line of like, you know, you don't do it unless you're quietly confident, but there's still that 30% that says, what's your backup plan to sort of go shoot? And I'm usually, I don't know, I've not really thought of the backup plan. You know what I mean? Like, and you should, but I'm like that.
No, I was saying I probably didn't have a backup plan here. If it did all go wrong,
just start again.
Start again. Do something else. Start again.
Yeah. That's. I think again that's where you can do really well as a business owner, is when you just think, I
think you just have to look at it. Just realistically look at things and just know what the odds are.
Yes. There's being like ridiculously stupid, and then there's like calculated risk.
Exactly. Yeah. And the more you're in business, the more accurate you can be with that. I mean, so I'd never do anything now that could, sacrifice the business really. Even back then, if it all went wrong, then we could have somehow kept things moving along. But
you go back to
it would have been a big jump backwards.
Exactly. But you just if you start again. I think that's some people are just scared, and I don't think they're scared of having to do it again. I think they've built themselves quite a comfortable life, haven't they? And it's that people, especially those who are accumulating wealth and success, it's the fear of having to go back. For a lot of people.
Yeah, I understand that, because a lot of people starting businesses, they've got families and kids. When I started, I had a girlfriend at the time, but single, no kids, no real commitments.
Yeah.
So I could sell my car at the time, and I could happily live on nothing. Sleep at friends' houses. I had no real commitments. Now to start a business now, it would be a lot tougher.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's again one of my driving forces to do. What I want to do is. To show people when they're coming into it. I mean, I'm talking about people who truly want to do something of passion. Not your social media, entrepreneur. I want real people. Show them that it is scary, it is difficult, but if you've still got that passion and you're true to your passion, it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. There's nothing on that's going to be better than that. Better to do that. Better to do 10 years and it all goes shit-shaped than to do 30 years working at a job that you freaking hate.
Exactly. That's my worst fear, is to look back and regret.
Yes.
Long as I can look back and just be happy, even if I took risks and it didn't work out.
Yeah,
I think you just got to be comfortable.
So, how do you? Because we touched on it a little bit. So, how do you cope with stress? Like, do you go home and like open one of your fine business and just chill and just, you know, what do you have a coping mechanism, or do you just kind of like take it in stride?
I do pretty much take it in stride. I find I don't train to get rid of stress, but I find I'm older now, so I don't train a huge amount or very hard. But when I do train 3 times a week, I always feel better after.
Yeah.
And sometimes things get really busy here, and I skip training a couple of times, and then it might end up a month of no training, and I always feel worse and more stressed than when I don't train.
Yeah.
So I think training definitely really is
That's
a
totally
good
right.
it's a good way of getting rid of stress.
I go off my food and everything, so I don't
everything
eat,
falls
I don't
apart.
train,
Yeah,
I touch shit.
because they're all linked together.
Yeah,
aren't they?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I eat crap, and training's like the key to everything, because that keeps everything in order. So training, I love cycling, so I cycle a lot, but I'm a bit of a fair weather cyclist now, so it's got to be a nice sunny day to get out on the road. But certainly some intense activity is good for
Do you have a way of like being able to clear your mind? So, you know, do you speak to your wife, or do you just kind of like, you know?
No,
is it something you
I'm
go
quite closed off. My wife hates it, but yeah,
She must pick up on it,
I don't.
yes.
She gets an idea of how things are going, but
Yeah.
I'm not one to go home and talk about day's work. I don't. My wife knows really very little about what happens day to day. She knows, what big things we're doing, what's going on, but I just feel like when you've gone through everything in your head, you've had a busy day, loads going on, the last thing I want to do is go through it all again, talk about it all again. So it's probably not the right thing to do, but I'd keep a lot of stuff just in my head and just bottle it up. I think it's just me. I think that's the way I
See, I do. So I'll go home and I'll talk to my wife, and then because of the job she does, she almost wants that, and she's really into Brady Brown, which is like, about owning your own shit.
Yeah.
So she'll start coming up with solutions and answers, and I feel like no, you missed the point. I don't need to solve it. It's not a problem.
You just want to offload it.
And then she puts things in my head that starts making things even bigger. So I just got to that habit now, not going home, because my wife will try to fix it. She will try to find it. So why do you feel like that? I'm like, whoa, I'm not lying down on the couch. This is not a psychological evaluation thing.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing that. And I think I agree with you. I think training. I always know, like right now, because of what's going on with us at the moment and one of the companies I'm starting at, the pressure, I'm not training because it's not important. It is, but you know what I mean? It's not, I've got to take an hour out of my day to go, it's not going to happen, I'm too busy. But and I can tell, because it manifests itself in your body as well, doesn't it? So what you're thinking, it's just...
I find as long as, because I'm always up early in the morning, at that time is generally just kind of planning long term, but planning the day as well, what I'm doing. So as long as I've got in my head what I'm doing, the important jobs I get done early. So by 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, all the important stuff I've generally done. So if the rest of the day goes out the window, it doesn't really matter, because I've done the things I needed to do. And that just keeps me happy. I think if I didn't do that, I would get stressed. If I knew things I had to do in the day, pushed them to the end of the day, came in here, loads of other stuff was happening, and I missed the things I wanted to do, then I'd start getting a bit stressed. So you kind of build things around what suits you, I think. For years I did transcendental meditation, which was amazing. For some reason, the last 6 months I've stopped. But that's something I want to get back into.
Do you feel you need to go back to that? Are you feeling like I need to do...
I don't notice being more stressed, but I just know at the time it was just a nice thing to do. It felt like comfortable when you went into it. It just felt good. So it's something I want to get back onto.
I think that feel-good factor is massive, isn't it? Because it gives you a bit more clarity as well, no matter what's going on. So if you could have a conversation with your younger self right now, is there anything you would say to your younger self that could have helped, not helped, anything you can speak to you. You can speak to your
I don't overthink. Overthink things, which I've learned over the years not to. Just take things, make a quick decision, and get on with what you're doing.
It's really interesting because on the way down here, I was listening because I'm obsessed with podcasts and stuff, and I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast, and somebody asked him a question about decision making and stuff like that. And he said exactly what you just said. You do it quickly, and you move on.
And if it's wrong, it's wrong.
Exactly, and that's what it says. Well, how do you know if it's going to be right? He said, well, how do I know it's not going to be right? I've made a decision. You live with your decision, but you've learned these things where you know when to say yes and when to say no.
Yeah. And I'm worrying about what's maybe going to happen. It's just so pointless. So years ago, I learned through the power of now.
Yeah.
Just living in the moment is just
not worrying about things you can't control. It's like the Brexit thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're both business people. We don't know what's going to happen, but I can't worry about Brexit because I can't control it.
Yeah.
And I'm quite normal. And there's so many people panicking. And people I speak to are scared to buy, scared to advance, scared to. I've already planned like 2 new facilities. A lot. What if Brexit happens?
You can't. Then you're just controlled by things that are outside of your own control, which is the worst place you could be. You need to control your own destiny, your own economy. You need to create your own economy.
And I think that's why when people say, well, it won't bother me, whatever happens. So the interest rate goes up or the interest rate goes down or whatever it is, it won't bother me. And that's because people have actually, like you just said, they've created their own economy. It might mean that you can't go on holiday every month. It might mean you can only go away a couple of times a year. But you're also not going to suffer and you're not going to have to lay your guys off. You know what I mean? You can't.
But also, whenever there's anything big like that, whenever there's a massive downturn or anything, there's always opportunities.
Yes.
So I think as long as you've got a little bit of money put away, and you're not, you haven't mortgaged up to the hilt or anything, if you've got a little bit of spare money, you can always make good use of any big shake-up.
You are
always
massively an
opportunities.
entrepreneur, aren't you? That's a big thing to talk about right now is the amount of top level guys who are sitting on large sums of money that should there be a downturn, and there's going to be a downturn. The people who win during a downturn are the ones who actually have anticipated it, and they're just rather than living up to your means. And we've talked about that, where you buy the car because you saved a bit of money. The interest rates dropped, so everybody went out and bought themselves cars and stuff like that, rather than going, well, that £300 you just saved on the mortgage, why are you not investing? Why is that not going into savings? Why are you not?
Yes, what we say the worst thing you can do is, if there's something you want to buy, save up and buy it, because then all that money's gone. You're better off buying some asset that would pay for what you want. So you want a new car, you buy a house that brings a rental income that will pay the cost of the monthly payments on the car. You buy, and then you've got the capital going up on the house as well.
Business, isn't it? Rather than having a business where literally every penny you earn has to pay for the car that you drive, the house you live in. You know what I mean? It's everything. So I think when you're making money work for itself, you've truly created something that's big.
Because the trouble is, if you do it the other way, you could be earning massive amounts of money and you'll still get through it. You still spend, and you see it all the time. I see it with staff who get substantial pay rises. A few years before, they'd spend all their money by the end of the month, by payday, it's skin. They need the money to pay yesterday's bills. They get a massive pay rise. A year later, they're still in the same position because they just live by their income, rather than thinking, okay, I've got some extra money, I'll invest that, create some things that are going to generate more income.
It's a thing right now rather than thinking in 5 years' time. And again,
I think schools should be teaching on this because it's so important.
I would love to get on in fact, when I spoke to Keaton about it, he was saying this lends itself to going into schools and to talking to kids and saying rather than drive the car so you look successful, why not invest the money you would have spent on that car, so then when you buy that car, you don't need to look successful. You're basing your spend and you're basing your image on the opinion of what somebody else might think of you, so you have to look a particular way and do a particular thing for people to go, well, you're quite successful, aren't you?
You just need that little bit of patience. You need to just stay the same for a few years, let things build up. Quite a few years. And then
so your younger self, you would literally say, don't overthink everything and be patient.
Yeah, exactly.
But how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
50 next year.
So I'm 50 in January as well.
Okay.
So we're going to have a big year next year, right? But
I've crammed out May.
I've literally...
I'm having a birthday month.
I've gone a little bit further now. I've kind of planned out a birthday year. I've already sorted out what I'm doing in December next year. Yeah, man. But I think I would love to teach kids and help kids understand, not talk about economics and the concept of money, because you can't get through to it. If I turn around to my kids right now and go, right, you've got 20 grand each, do what you want, I would like to think that my kids would invest that money in property or they would do something with it. I don't think they would go out and go awesome and buy themselves a car and a nice watch in it. You know what I mean? I'd like to think, and I think they would. I think they would put it to my daughter. She would go, yes, I'll open the kennels. And
how old are your kids?
27 and 23.
Okay.
So
mine are 10 and 7. I started a bit late.
Yeah. So for yourself, you want to teach them that.
Yeah.
Don't you want to like that hard work, tenacity. Is the key to life. Patience.
Yeah, definitely.
So many people are impatient, but again, that's why it's so hard work, because I think that comes with kind of age, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Luckily, when I started the business, I was just too busy to go around spending money, so I had no choice.
And again,
so many areas I didn't have time to spend money.
And I find that I spend less now on myself than I did when I was living month to month. So as a nurse, you get paid, and I'll buy that shirt all the time. Whereas now I can walk into a store, pick up 7 shirts, and if I don't go straight to the till, I'll probably put them 7 shirts back. Because I'm now thinking, I don't need 7.
Yeah, one thing I found is when you can actually afford something, the want for it just
massively removed. Yeah.
It's when there's something you can't quite afford, you want it so much.
It's really hard, and I'm literally the worst person. Like, if my wife sees me, you can have that. I'm like, let's go to the touch. No, let's think. No, it's not think. Let's go. Whereas I just literally end up going back around. I look like I work in the shop. I'm putting these things back. I'm thinking, I don't need another shirt. I've got shirts. I don't know. I'm just.
But the thing with money, I find it gives you choices on how you live and what you do, which I think is really important.
And I think when people realise that that's all money does, it's a token. It means you can do this or you can do that.
Because I don't get everyone compares money with happiness. Everyone's got this thing, money won't make you happy. Of course, it won't make you happy. If you're miserable, you're going to be miserable.
Miserable, absolutely, yeah.
But I'd rather be miserable and have a load of money than miserable and poor.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's like first thing you want to do is look at why you're miserable.
Exactly.
And will money change it? And if you truly say yes, having more money will change it, then change it. I'm a true believer in that. I don't buy into where you were born, what your background is, what's happened. If you really truly want to change, that's why I can't get into the it's okay for you actually. It really was. I want to say to people, what does that mean? It's okay for me. You're judging me now. You don't know what I've done, what I've sacrificed, what I was prepared to do to get where.
I think people naturally think anyone who's doing well, they naturally think it was either handed to them. And thinking, I remember years ago thinking that way myself, seeing people who had nice cars and things, and thinking there must be something, there's some secret they know, there's something. If only I knew what it was, and I could be. Like that, and eventually you learn. It's just years of consistency and hard work and failures and hard work that just slowly gets you there. But I remember thinking about, there's got to be some secret that if I could just learn about.
And I love that, mate. We're more alike than you think, because I remember driving to meet friends, and they're all business owners. And I remember driving to meet them for a drink, and the R8 had just come out. The R8 just come out, and I was coming from the beach, and a guy in an R8 behind me, probably. 30. I thought that's a nice car. I like that. Anyway, to turn up in the bar, sit down and drink, and I said to these guys, I've just seen the R8. Oh, beautiful car. I went, it's the 30-year-old. I said, what do you think about the fact it's a 30-year-old driving it? And the comments were wanker, toss that daddy's money.
Yeah, that's
Do you know what I
probably
mean?
a UK
And like they're still doing okay. They've not really grown. They're just making enough money to do what they need to do. You know, they've not expanded. And this was like 10 years ago. You know, they've not expanded, not grown, nothing. They're literally one man band. That's it. Right. And I actually thought myself, I said, well, if it is dad's money, I want to get to know daddy, because daddy knows something if you can buy little bills in our range.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So I've always been intrigued and gone, well, what do they know? I don't think, well, it's all right for them, daddy's bought them or you know, whatever. I just think, what
Yeah,
do
I've
they know?
always been fascinated by people that are successful.
Yes.
Just hearing the way they look at things is very different.
So one of the reasons why I
most
wanted to
people.
do this is because I want to get into the psyche of like, what made you do what you did, and you know, how did you get there? You know, and if I do speak to somebody on this journey and they say, well, actually, you know, Daddy gave me £5 million on starting the company, well, good for you. But
Generally, though, you find if people are given money, you just lose that drive. You lose that urgency and that
there's no value in free.
being pushed in the corner to make it work.
There's no value in free.
No, exactly.
You know.
That's why generally lottery winners 5 years down the line, they're generally.
Did you play the lottery?
No.
And everybody again who I speak to, you know, have done well. They've probably never.
I wouldn't want to win if I won.
I get people say, oh, it's 140 million, it's 140 million. Yeah, it's a £2 or whatever it is for the ticket. Yeah, it's 140 million. I'm like, yeah, but that would change my life in a way that I don't want to change. I want to be in control of my path. Not now I've got 140 million. I'm like, you would literally remove the fun out of what I do.
Yeah, whenever if we're going somewhere nice on holiday or something, I've done this a few times. The kids are sat there playing on their iPads and stuff, and it's that really nice feeling of thinking I've put us in this position.
Yes.
And that is really rewarding.
Yes.
And if you just give them the money or want the
you
money,
appreciate
you
it.
wouldn't have that at all. And I think psychologically in the back of your head, if you're given the money, you're always thinking, I don't really deserve this, and without realising, you'll probably make yourself.
You give most of the money.
You're giving away.
My dad played lottery all the time. He used to say to me, if I win the lottery, son, I'll pay off your house, and I'll do all this, I'll do that. Let's go, Dad, I like what you do. Because if you do that, you've removed my reason for getting up in the morning. I mean, what I'm going to do, wake up and go, should we just fly to the Caribbean as we can? And when you get there, you're bored. You just don't want to be there. You know, you're just removing life out of it. And I'm sure some people won't get that. They'll be like, no, just give me the 140 million, I'll be happy, man. I'm like, yeah, but
I found it's like a real nice thing is sharing things with other people, taking friends and things away, and changing homeless people for a few days. You know, doing things like that is really rewarding. I find I do.
And it comes from a genuine place. It's not because you're trying to look like, you know, or look like I really care. You know, it's the things that we don't talk about. I don't talk about what I do and what we've done for charities and stuff like that.
Some people really push that on social.
I'm not after the ego. I don't need anybody fluffing my ego. I like the fact that you will like literally film yourself walking into a private jet. I'm like, that's cool. You know, you doing working in a homeless shelter for an evening. I'm like, nah, don't need to know that. You're doing that for others. You're not doing it for the cause, you're doing it for something else to get some adulation of some sort. So no, keep doing the food, keep doing food and planes, and just celebrating and show people that you shouldn't be ashamed of hard work. You should be ashamed of hard work. Thanks for your time, mate.
That's great. Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
It's been good.
And I appreciate you busy but taking the time out, and also being the first guest on the podcast, and also being one of the guys that being my book.
Yeah, that's good.
This thing's awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Take care.
Thanks.
That was awesome. That worked out better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. How long was that?
An hour and 8 minutes.
Oh, good.